45.
Looks like Tom Duncan.
Sounds like must be a duck.
Jersey girls are the best.
Yeah.
What?
The bunny ears are back. I don't know why, man. I just never get old of that bunny ears.
That's a great intro reel, man.
Thank you, bro. Thank you. That bunny ears was just so tiny. Poor thing kept coming in front of it all the entire episode. And of course, you know me being an asshole, I wasn't going to let go of it. So,
It's really good to see you, brother.
Laugh, let it eat. And today, this is so cool, guys. I don't know if you understand the depth of what I'm about to experience here, but I have one of my heroes, one of my good friends, a guy who's literally responsible for kind of launching my podcast. I mean, we don't even talk about that a lot, but today we have Geoff Livingston with us.
How you doing, Bobby, man? Good to see you.
Before Geoff starts talking, I just want everyone to fully understand who Geoff is in my world. Right? So, Geoff, if you ever see my headshot, Geoff did my headshot, right? All my headshots ever used in the last 5 years were done by Mr. Geoff himself. I remember I used to see your podcast. I was like, damn, I want to do that. I want to do a podcast. And so you hooked me up with Molly.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You were like the impetus of where this podcast actually started from.
She's done pretty well for herself, too, right? And that's in Costa Rica and all that. Pretty good.
So right now, you're currently the founding principal analyst of this thing called Cognitive Tech.
Correct. Yeah.
Which is kind of like from what I'm gathering, it's like an intersection of marketing and AI.
That's correct. 100% right.
Right. So I don't want to take anything away from you, man. And the other thing that people don't know about you, but I do, is for some crazy ass reason, you love running marathons.
I don't know what happened to me, Bobby. Like, what is that? I don't know.
Put that in my.
Like, you know me. You've known me a long time. I was a big boy, man. I don't know why I just started running. It was the pandemic. I know exactly what it was. I went on a vacation, and I'd go to the gym just to, kick some stress. And all the gyms on vacation were closed. So I'm like, screw it. I'm just going to get a seated 5K program and just start running. And rest is history. Next thing you know, I'm running marathons, man.
I mean, the rest of us, like, we joined Freedom Boat Club and started smoking cigars on the Potomac River. After the pandemic.
I know, right? Yeah, I got a bunch of friends that go to Anita's for tacos every Saturday morning, and they're always like, "Hey, Geoff, you're going to come with us?" I'm like, "No, I'm running." They're like, "You're nuts." I'm like, "No, you're nuts. You're eating those tacos."
Because I've never run 26 miles in my entire life.
Yeah.
I think the most I've ever, walked, right? And this is when I was, I think in 9th grade or 8th grade. I can't remember. But I walked from Fairfax Circle in Virginia, for people who live in Virginia.
Right.
Fairfax Circle to Tyson's and back. I don't know how far that is.
That's a long way. I do know that. That's a long way. Yeah.
But I was 8th and 9th grade, somewhere in there, that ballpark. I was like, you bounce back the next day.
Right.
What's it like running 26 miles, man?
It's a slog, dude. I mean, I'm not going to kid you. It's a real endurance challenge, but when you work for something for 3-4 months to get there, to train up to it, and it's not just like you just wake up and say, "I'm going to run a marathon in 3-4 months."
Right.
You have to have a base to really do it well. And I didn't do it well the first time I did it, but I'll tell you what, it was really, I enjoyed the actual training period. I enjoyed the sense of accomplishment. I actually enjoyed the run for the first 3/4 of it until I bonked and kind of hit the wall a little bit. But it was a lot of fun. I did Chicago. That was my first marathon.
Did you say to yourself, okay, you're running your, let's go back. Whatever your first marathon was, right?
I've only done one, Chicago. I got number 2 coming in.
It feels like you're running them all the time, Geoff, on your Facebook.
Well, that's because I'm talking about that training cycle, man, because it takes a long time to build up. I got to do 18 miles on Saturday, 20 the week following.
In your first marathon, did you say, I can't, did you say it? I can't do this. This is stupid.
No, actually, when I hit the wall, which was somewhere between 18 and 20 miles, and I hit the wall in hindsight because I took my kid and my wife with me to Chicago, and we walked like 30,000 steps. I ran a 5K the day before as a shakeout, ate horrible food at like 8 o'clock. And, all things aside,
running music here.
Oh yeah, they're running music. I'm like, what is that?
Now we're like running Geoff's head. Okay,
So long story short, like I hit that wall because I kind of self-sabotaged the day before unwittingly.
What mile was that when you hit the wall?
Probably about like I definitely knew I was in trouble at 18, but at 20 I knew it was like a full-on slog.
Oh wow!
But there was no way that I was not going to finish. Like I had worked way too hard. I was like, if I have to walk every half mile, I'm going to finish this thing.
Damn, man. Yeah. See, I think like I walk my dog. We do about 3 miles.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah. Well, he's 12 now, so he's getting tired. So I use that as an excuse. It's the truth. Right?
But, Bobby needs a new dog.
Like he used to be able to do the all Burke Lake at one time, right? I mean, it was just 5 miles.
That is a nice little circuit. I've run that a few times. Yeah.
But you know what I've seen guys on Burke Lake, by the way, is they pace me. They'll like run around and
I've done that to people.
And like in 60 minutes or whatever. I'm like, how's this even like? Am I seeing doubles or like I'm having a flashback from the high school? What the hell's going on here?
Yeah, it takes me about 40 minutes to run around Burke Lake.
Yeah, that's just annoying. Just for the rest of us. Man, that's not cool, dude. All right, let's dive into your stuff that you really do love, other than running, right?
Sure. Let's talk business, man. Let's talk like what people want to talk about.
Of artificial AI, otherwise known as artificial intelligence AI, whatever, right?
Right.
We are. Look, I mean, honestly, I think we're just on the surface, right? I'm sure there's stuff that's going on deep in the annals of OpenAI that we'll never know about until it comes out.
Boy, I have a love-hate relationship with that company.
Yeah, everybody does.
Yeah,
and not only love-hate, but a fear also. Let's throw the fear, but
with good reason.
Yeah. But I mean, look, it's shaping the marketing world. Like, dude, I can go into AI right now, my ChatGPT.
Yeah,
I work for Homecoming's Mortgage. It knows what I do, and I say, okay, I need 17 ideas to post for the next 5 days on Instagram. It needs to be with hashtags, and boom,
voila. And I would think for real estate, because it's not a niche industry, if you would, like the domain is large, that tool is actually very useful. But I would say that tool is very good for individual proprietors or small businesses, individual contributors on the marketing side.
Mm-hmm.
And not necessarily revolutionary for like the large enterprise, if that makes any sense.
Break that down for the rest of us that don't understand that.
Yeah, so I ran across a really interesting stat just to kind of level it up a bit, which was that in quarterly earning calls this quarter, and this was a big story on Yahoo Finance today, the number of mentions about AI has dropped in half. And that's because businesses, enterprises are really starting to see that what OpenAI is pushing, right? When all the other ones, right, like Claude and Perplexity and, if you get to the image generators, DALL-E and Midjourney, like there are a lot of AI tools, right?
Midjourney,
but they're really
Midjourney's serious.
Yeah, I love Midjourney. Love it.
That's a serious dude.
Yeah. And but the thing is that these are tools for the individual to use, right? They're not really something that's going to impact big business on the level that everybody was promised. And I think you're kind of seeing like a little bit of disillusionment that's kind of a rise. And frankly, OpenAI is to blame a lot because they're a hype engine and they promise all sorts of things and then they don't deliver. And case in point, that whole AI video thing they released last week, which nobody can even use. It's like, great, thanks, man.
Don't you think? I mean, this is like, look, I was old enough to remember VCR when everyone thought it was going to be beta that one,
right,
and that the VHS was out, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere it became VHS, and then out of nowhere it becomes CD-ROM and digital disc, and now we're all streaming. So
right, what happened to Blockbuster?
Right. I mean, to me, we're just the ground floor of what AI is going to evolve into, right? I mean, it's not the end all at this point.
Oh, I definitely think like That is the right attitude. And I think that experimenting with it is the right attitude, because I hear a lot of conversations like, well, this is going to take my job. It's not going to take your job. The person that's going to take your job uses it, though. You know?
The evolution of AI, Geoff. I mean, because that's what I think where I see. I know we're
well, I think where it's going, if you want to get into that kind of like a futurist chat. So,
yeah.
All right, from a brutal marketing standpoint, we all have like databases, right? Like, and our databases may be large or they may be small. Like you've been in business a long time, but you have several thousand people in your database, if I'm correct. 3,000?
No, 3.
That's a lot. 3,000.
Just 3.
Just 3. Your mom, your dad, and your
My wife.
But like, if you have several thousand, hypothetically speaking, right, there's no way you can reach out to them all. So when you send an email or you try to reach out to them to tell them about the Geoff Livingston podcast, you can't personalize it. You just drop the email, right? Like you come up with the best email. Maybe you put it into the AI tool and say like, hey, how's this going to be better? Where we're really going to go with this is you're going to not use generative AI, which is like where all the hype is. You're going to use machine learning.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's going to slice and dice that list real nice for you. Like we're going to get like 5 years down the road, these tools are going to be accessible to small and medium enterprises, even the entrepreneur like you and me. And we're going to be able to do that. And that's going to be revolutionary for us, because what we could do is we could take that email about the Fabi podcast and I could send it to my network, but I could say like, these are the relative points for this type of person, this type of person, and this type of person. And the AI will be like, great. Also, you missed this demographic, and maybe these people who are in your network who are also commercial real estate brokers may be interested in it as well as people that are doing individual houses, right? And I'll be like, oh, wow, that's a great point. So make these messages for them. And what the AI will then do is take your messaging framework and then personalize the emails out.
Nice.
That's awesome.
About analyzing the data, though, well,
that's
Geoff,
where the bread and butter is, bro.
Right? Because Geoff didn't open my email, but John did. So we need to move John up on the scale, and then we need to find out what John engages with.
Right. And because John agreed to cookies, I know how many times he's on the site, what he's looking at, what interests him.
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. That's what I think. That's the true power of AI in reaching an audience and engaging with the audience.
It's really unsexy from a media standpoint, but from a business standpoint, that's where the money's at.
So right now, in this current, not the future, not the evolution, in this current market, are people really using it to analyze data on that level that we just talked about?
Well, that really depends on the size of the company, because it's expensive now, right? Mm-hmm. And the tools haven't broken into the smaller, medium enterprises. So like, for example, like I use MailChimp. I don't know what you use. Constant Contact's the other real popular one, but there are a bunch of small email programs. It hasn't gotten to that level yet, right? Like when it comes down to the point where we can like integrate our CRM into MailChimp and have that kind of personalization, it's on. I will say large enterprises are doing it. And this year, there's a big change that's happening on the internet, which a lot of people aren't talking about. And that's the end of third-party cookies, which means that for folks that don't know, Google, Safari, if you use Firefox, whatever, maybe even you use, what is that, Edge or Explorer or whatever Microsoft is now,
using like Edge?
I think so, like 2% of the world. Anyway, if you're using these browsers, they're no longer tracking you across the internet, or they will stop tracking you across the internet by the end of the year. And that's because of government regulations in California as well as Europe. So it's not in the tech company's best interest to have all these different browsers. Long story short, that means the whole spray and pray, like anytime you show up on a website, you suddenly get stalked across the internet era. It's over. And that means big businesses are going to have to work a lot harder about getting your information. So when you become a customer, they're going to ask you to collect your information all the time.
I think I have an opinion on the cookie thing, by the way. I don't actually stop using cookies.
You think they should stop?
I don't think they're going to stop. I think it's going to be volunteer.
It's first party, yeah.
Yeah, like are you consent to letting us track you on the internet? Because we're seeing that more and more pop up, right?
All the time, and you should.
Right. And so when you say, well, I'm not going to give you consent, well, you won't have the same experience as the person who gave us consent.
I consent to everything. I'm like, yeah, send it to me. I'm a marketing guy. Send it to me. I want to see what you're going to try to hustle me with. And I'm like the biggest sucker too. Like salespeople and marketing people, the first thing we love, oh, that's a great marketing campaign. I love that. Yeah. My wife does not love that though. She's like, put your wallet away, boy.
Interesting. People are like, well, I went to Amazon and the thing I was shopping was popping up on Facebook. Like, really? Yeah. Where have you been?
Yeah. Yeah, I think Amazon actually, though, if you look at how strong their recommendation engines are and the personalization that they use, and it's still not like great in my mind, that's where we're going for our businesses.
Right. So now let me ask you a question with this one. When we look at AI as a whole and we look at the future and you take this, because you kind of have put in the cookies thing now, right?
Yep.
At a certain point, all the data and analytics that we are already deciphering, AI is going to do that in a matter of seconds.
I think that's a really savvy point. In fact, I have an article coming out next week about the data-centric CMO. Like all CMOs that get hired now, it's because they're great with data and analytics. And I think that's going to go away because the AI is going to do a better job than them. Like really, I mean, like if you're a great CMO, what you're going to end up being is a guy that can operationalize all these technology systems and all your human creative talent to create the ultimate marketing machine. Like you're going to be more of a COO than a CMO in a lot of ways.
I think there'll be a CPO.
What is that?
Chief Prompt Officer.
I don't know, man.
The guy who knows how to do all the crazy prompting the right way.
But that guy's going to be your graphic designer. He's going to call himself the legendary prompt officer.
Talk about the future of AI. I swear to God, for an entire episode. In fact, we have one coming up on March 7th. Cheap fast plug for me and Ginger Bell. We're going to be actually talking about how to use AI in the mortgage industry.
Oh, wow.
Because believe it or not, we were in Florida last month and we found out how many people were not using AI.
It's amazing, isn't it?
And you're like, I mean, but the thing is, I think sometimes people like you and I, and obviously a lot of people, we are more in a bubble of technology, and rather than being afraid of it, we embrace it and figure, let's see what happens. What's the worst?
It's really interesting because you say that. I've really tried to stop going on LinkedIn. I don't use Twitter, but I'm on Threads, and or I guess it's X now. I actually have intentionally started to leave those conversations a few days during the business week and just talk to real people doing real business to get a better grounding of what the world actually is doing with AI. And it's funny what the conversation is and what the world is doing are often two different things.
They're not the similar, man. And it's like people don't understand that the social media as a whole has evolved into something that I don't know. I'm split on it, right? Like I know it's necessary. I know it's not the genie that's out of the bottle now, so it's too late. You're not going to put it back, right?
Yes.
I mean, like a marketing guys. I mean, one of the things that we've now seen marketing is used to be like you had to see an ad 8 times before you believed it. Because of social media, that's now 13 times.
And then you have all the influencers too, and do you trust them or not? Right? Like that's the other thing. Is like these. And you and I are just as guilty of doing this, right, for our own businesses. And I would say that you are an expert. I think some people consider me an expert. They're nuts. But, the point, you're one of those nuts, by the way. But like all jokes aside, like you can literally set up a shop, right? And you don't have to have experience. You could just talk smack. And people will be like, oh, they're an expert.
Yeah. I mean, there was a gentleman named Barry Habib who is actually, he is an expert. Known expert in the finance business and of predicting markets and that kind of stuff. He's wrong sometimes and right sometimes. That's what I mean. But one of the things he was on the show we were talking about is that he said it's too soon for people to be called themselves experts in the world of AI.
Yeah, I would agree with that too.
Right? Like it's only been October, November of 2022 or 23, whatever, 22, yeah. Right?
Well, I've been working in it for like 5-6 years. I was
mean,
marketing for it, but it was an ML company, a machine learning company. It wasn't this generative stuff.
right? What I'm
I'd say Gen AIs.
Yeah, the open AI, the Chat GPT, that like it was
That
like
was the crossing the chasm moment. Yeah.
right. That was like, and then all of a sudden it was like mid journey, and your mind's exploding. Like, what the hell? You mean the world's not flat? It's really round. Like that kind of moment for me.
Yeah. It was a big deal. I remember the first time I used it, I was like, it's coming for my job. But then I started really using it. I'm like, no.
I'm always looking 10 to 15 years down the road. And I'm not worried about the job, by the way. I don't think it's ever going to take anyone's jobs unless you
I
want.
don't think so. I mean, like, here's the problem with AI generally and that whole logic train. Like, yeah, I mean, if your job is really rote and it's automated and it's thoughtless, you might actually have a problem, right? Like toll booth operator is a great example of that because that's the same thing, just in a physical world, right?
By the way,
what's that?
I said no offense to the toll booth operators of the Union of America.
100%. It's not. And look, it could happen to us next year. Who knows? Yeah. But the reality is the past is prologue with AI, and what I mean by that is it never does anything new. Really, what it does is it takes everything that's been fed to it and shoots you out a mashup of probability. And that might look new to us, but in reality, it's not. It's the same stuff regurgitated.
I think the toll booth analogy is so good. I've used it several times where I tell people, look, you've been using Easy Pass for how many years? Because you go to New York City and you don't want to stop, so you take the Easy Pass and you fly through the toll booths.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What's your favorite AI tool, by the way, Fabi? Is it ChatGPT or is it something else? I have one. I'll throw it out.
It's ChatGPT. I think it's the most convenient for me. Mm-hmm. I'm not. What's the right way to say? I'm not one of those guys that needs to live off AI technology right now. My business is kind of more about hand to hand with human beings.
Yes.
So, but I love ChatGPT because it's on my phone. So I can talk to it now and have conversations, which is amazing for me, right? I love it. I love the fact that it's like I was giving a speech in Colorado to the mortgage bankers down there, and what I said Google is like walking into the library, got all these books everywhere. ChatGPT is the librarian and you having a conversation about one book.
It's the new Google in a weird way. Meets Encyclopedia Britannica.
Yeah, it's like the interaction thing. Like you and I can talk about a book and have a conversation about it. And that's, to me, what I love about ChatGPT is I don't have to keep searching. I'm just going to be asking questions. Well, what about this? Like today, we're coming up with a new process on how to do sales activities.
Right.
And our CEO equated to fishing in a river. And what goes on upstream is going to affect how many fish you catch. So then I had ChatGPT actually act like a fisherman, do all the stuff, come up with illustrations. I could put it in a PowerPoint and present it to the sales team next week.
Beautiful.
It's like, there it is. It took me like 20 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, that's the real value, right? Like for me, my favorite tool is Grammarly Go, which is basically
Grammarly's AI.
Yeah, I love Grammarly's AI because
you're right.
I do a lot of writing. I'm probably dropping like 4,000 to 5,000 words a week. And so like I don't like ChatGPT that much for the writing side. I might use Claude or some of it to kind of like beef up things or take some messaging and reiterate it. But Grammarly Go, oh my Lord, saves me, I would say, hours of proofing time. And then when I know I have a bad sentence, I can literally just say, rewrite this. And it's using the same technology as GPT 3.5. So,
There's also read.ai. I don't know if you're using that.
Yeah, I love Read AI.
Oh, yeah. Now that I see what you're saying, yes.
Yeah.
Read.ai is absolutely the saver of all this stuff. And then Otter AI, because I'll take like a transcript of this podcast.
Right.
Otter, get the transcript, shoot that into ChatGPT, write the summary, shoot that to Grammarly, have it proofread, and then I'll put it on LinkedIn.
And we use Flogen on our podcast. We do it on Riverside, and then we put it in Flogen, and Flogen like chops it up and gives us all the social media bits right there. It's awesome.
Amazing.
Right? It takes, like, can you imagine editing that though in a video like editor? Like, Like I don't have 2 hours to do that, man.
We had hired a guy that would write our podcast notes for us for the last few seasons. And I'm sure he's like wondering, where's Fabi? It's like every
sorry, buddy.
5,000 episode, you know what I mean? It's gone.
Yeah, I mean, like, and that's the thing is that it's accurate enough too, right? Like, because you know this as well as I do. It's probably not the same. Maybe it is the same quality because all humans don't work at the same level of quality as an AI, but it's going to get you to 90%, right? And 90% is good enough for show notes.
Absolutely.
Right? Nobody reads them. Like some people do, but only if they're like really deep into it. Like they know what they're getting, Once
again, with ChatGPT, I can actually question some of the comments it makes about the summary.
Yes.
Have it tweak it and then add some other elements in, which I couldn't have done with the show notes guy. So anyway, let's pivot here, Geoff, because I got to talk to you about one other thing, right? But
I didn't do it.
You are a photographer.
I am.
And you've got books out there with your photography in it.
Got a couple of Yosemite pictures from some work that I did with the National Park Foundation right there.
Yeah, I mean, and your pictures are amazing.
Thank you.
I mean, listen, to the 6-7 people who listen to this podcast, go out there and check out Geoff Livingston, Geoff Livingston's pictures. They are just out of this world. Really, they are. You know it. I'm not saying anything that you don't know. When did you start taking pictures?
So I've always been a writer and a marketer. And when blogging took off, I didn't like the stock imagery that was out there. Like today, I could just go to Midjourney and say, create an image. Right. But like, because I was blogging a lot about the things I was seeing at conferences and events, I would just literally bring a camera and start shooting. And people were like, you need to shut up, stop talking, and start clicking, man, because that's what you do well. And it's interesting because now in this AI era, and 15 years later, I still think there's a great role for the human observer, that human eye, the element. Again, it gets back to what AI can do well and what humans can do well. AI can create imagery based off the past, but it can't really capture the present. And, and there's a soulfulness to it that just doesn't happen from a machine. And I think that's where photography still has a great role. And I love I'm going to do it tomorrow. I've set aside a couple hours to just go out and shoot. I'm going to go to Library of Congress. You're welcome to come with me, my man.
The thing that I noticed about your pictures, okay, and by the way, I'm an artist, right? I don't know if people know this, but I'm a musician. That's just my nature, right? I'm always into creativity. I'm always into stuff that
you have a flow state to you.
I do. Yeah.
By the way, 2 miles into your run, you'll be in that flow state.
I'll think about it tomorrow, but we'll see. Pictures is you capture a certain crispiness. I don't know if I'm saying that the right way. There's a certain sharpness. There's a certain like you can almost see the line delineation between, say, you had that one picture of the girl with the American flag that I remember. She was standing in front of the flag when all the riots were going on down in DC.
Right.
And you could literally see the distinction of like where everything was like where other people their pictures tend to be not I don't know use the word blurry but smooth. I think there's a lens or something that they make everything smooth.
Right.
To go more crispy and more like contrast, and it's your style. I don't know if you even know that.
I do. Actually, it's intentional, but it's editing actually.
Right. So it's just an amazing style because it makes you feel like you're actually in. For me, I feel like I'm part of the picture.
That's pretty cool. And I love hearing that. So thank you for saying that. And it's funny because I just did a photo, and I'll send it to you after, of a gal. She's my friend of mine, Holly, and we did a portrait shoot in the National Building Museum. And we did one 5 years ago. And that one, she's wearing a red dress with those gold pillars, and she flipped the dress. It was actually a coat. And it was just like stark, very contrasty, dramatic light. And this was the exact opposite. It was soft light, but still, there is no question, in spite of everything, she is the subject, and your eye is immediately drawn to her. And I think that's composing and understanding how to make somebody pop or something pop, and then usually using the editing tools to make that really come out. And in that case of that latter photo, she was wearing a bluish purple thing and another gown, and I literally saturated it quite a bit to make it stand out. You know what I mean? But I know that's what the eye is going to be drawn to.
I had my book here, but I don't know if you know this, but on the back of my book, when they said about the author, that was a picture you shot.
Yeah, I remember doing that shoot with you. Yeah. We were in, was it Union 206, right?
Somewhere in Alexandria. Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah.
Remember that, but you were like all freaked out because you got cat eyes or something on me. And I was like, what the hell is he talking about, cat eyes? And then I saw like you had the light shining in.
Oh, the light. Yeah. That's a crazy shoot, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, but like guys like me, we don't know that. We're just out there just shooting. You know what I mean? I don't know anything what I'm shooting. I just like taking pictures. That's it's always like been a fun thing for me. What is like, you probably taken a million pictures, but like one picture that stands out, like this is like the one. I know you got some on your wall back there, but is there one? Is that one of the ones that stands out, or is there something that really just captured you?
There was a photo I took in Cuba. It was 2016, and I went right before the election, and I wanted a few months beforehand. I wanted to go in case it got closed again. And on the very last night of our trip, we're walking back to the hotel after our last photo walk. There were 7 photographers, and I looked to my right, and there were 4 guys and a dog. The guys were sitting at a table in a very dim lit, colorful, but deteriorating corridor, just like you imagine Havana to be today, playing cards. And that photo, to me, is still the very essence of Cuba without all the tourists. And I just freaking love that photo to death. And it's still very contrasty and dramatic and colorful and all that, but still, it's friendship, it's companionship, it's the humanity of life with the dog, the game and ship. I mean, all of it. It's just so awesome.
There's so much to be said about stillness. People don't understand stillness. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And when you're describing that picture, that's what I was feeling, was the stillness of the night. Kind of like following over all the characters.
And the memories too, right? Like we know now that if we don't treasure our moments with people, like even this podcast with you, I will, every time I see you, I know we'll probably have a laugh or two about it, maybe, or even think about it, just maybe that, not even bring it up. But it's something between us, right? But if we don't value these interactions with people, then we lose the essence of life. I think this is it.
Well, let's ask you the opposite. Is there a picture that you wish you had never published?
There might be a few. I don't really want to talk about them. I would say the ones that are most painful for me still, that I'm glad they're out there, but I chose not to go back into the city and continue to photograph the protests that were happening.
Oh, yeah.
Because, this was before January 6th, but in December. And, I'm not trying to get into the politics of it.
Sure.
But I did end up, what were those guys? The Proud Boys, right? I was photographing the Proud Boys had come in twice before January 6th. One was in December of I guess it was 2020 and November of 2020. And I went to both. But in the December one, they were actually violent and beating people up randomly. And I had a guy go after me, and it was very violent and dangerous. And it was really one of the most traumatizing moments of my life. And it took me a good year after the presidential inauguration to really want to go back into the city again, just generally, because it had really killed my love for DC. And it was not a good experience. It was just really scary, and I had not been in an environment before where I felt my physical well-being was endangered. So
I do remember those times. I do remember the protests that you were going down to, and there was a lot of. I went down to one of them. I mean, I was comfortable, but I don't think I was in the thick of things like you were.
Yeah. I mean, like I've got photos where I was like literally in the riot line between the cops and the police, and I've seen some violence, frankly, and I've seen some tear gassing, and it was really. I mean, I did a personal project around that time, and I'm really glad I did it. I don't ever want to do it again. I may end up having to do it again. We never know, right?
Yeah.
And I would know what to do, but I definitely feel like that was a singular moment in time, which I hope never to relive.
It is interesting how like with all those moments, social media and the impact it's making on those moments, particularly.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think we watch the news. Like, we see it all come across on Facebook or whatever the medium that you're choosing, but it's like, I don't think like I watch news anymore to TV to get my news anymore.
No, it's really hard to take the news seriously, particularly I don't know how to say this. It's every news outlet, regardless of view or viewpoint, is always catering to a small demographic. And this is part of the social media problem, right? Yeah. I don't think we ever really talked about social media, but it's very tribalized and we're told what to talk about. And there are actually very few information sources. They tend to get repeated over and over again. And the voice of the common man or woman is muted. Like the dream of being social media present is gone, right? We can't really rise up like we used to. And that's because the algorithm wants us to pay. Literally it's a big business and, LinkedIn will shut you down now if you get to about 1,000, 2,000 views if you don't pay to boost your post. And so with that in mind, we're basically having this kind of not mass media, but kind of micro media shoved down our throats based on our personalized interests. And so what you end up having is echo chambers, and everything is an echo chamber, and each news outlet and the associated influencers that talk about the same topics basically shove that viewpoint down and give us confirmation bias. And as a result of that, I just basically don't trust any of it,
It almost feels like, I think the word I was really thinking was, and you said it was echo chambers, that we all have kind of found these echo chambers. I mean, I'll be honest with you. There are things that I sometimes I want to say things on Facebook or whatever, and I'm like, I don't want to do this because I know it'll happen. You know what I mean? I did it early on.
Oh, dude, I made that mistake yesterday.
You're like, what?
Oh, it's funny. Do you want to hear what I did? All right, it's running related.
Okay.
So ESPN, this is classic, right? ESPN puts up a picture of Travis Kelce running a 5K in Delaware. Travis Kelce runs a 5K to run charity, to raise money for this charity. And I'm like, so what? I literally wrote, so what? Hundreds of thousands of Americans do this every month for their charities too.
Right.
Why is this a news story? All of a sudden, man, I swear to God, I must have gotten 70, 80 haters just
you got the Swifties after you now.
Hammering me. Like, how dare you say that? He's a celebrity. I'm like, no, he's not a celebrity. Taylor is a celebrity. Oh, man. You are one of the most ignorant people on earth. I'm like, well, actually, I kind of appreciate Taylor Swift. I think she's a media genius, but her idiot boyfriend and the brother here running the race, screw those guys. I'm from Philly too. I know that guy's a poser.
You should have said. I see. This is why I don't do this. See, I would have said he could have just donated his Super Bowl ring and he would have raised more money than if he ran 5K.
Yeah, am I impressed by a celebrity asking other people for money or giving his own? You know what I'm saying? And sorry. I'm sorry that this football player had a hard time running a 5K, but man, you're a professional athlete, dude. Come on. Is that a big deal?
Dave Grohl, the Foo Fighters, was out there making barbecue for the homeless on the day of Super Bowl.
I like that story. That was a good story.
I think that is more noble and more humanitarian.
Because he's just one of us.
Yeah, and I don't believe that he was looking for that spotlight. They just happened to spotlight him. So he wasn't seeking it.
Yeah, they just saw this random animal-looking guy serving up beans. Like, are you David Grohl? I am! Quick!
So it is kind of weird, man. But anyway, look, we've come up to the end here. We passed the 35-minute mark. I know that these people have ADD and they're not going to be able to watch the whole episode anyway. So.
They're going to be like, Livingston's a hater. He's a Swiftie hater.
No, you're not a hater. It's a very engaging episode of Flatland. Huge thanks for GeoffLivingston.com, GOFF Livingston.com. You gotta check this guy out, man.
Thank you for having me, Bobby. It's always a pleasure talking to you, man.
Dude, you, like I said, man, you got this platform started. This is you, baby.
No, man, you've made something out of this.
Yeah. gotta put a cheap plug for. Don't forget to follow us on social media channels, especially the YouTube. Man, I got 1,000 followers on YouTube, and I haven't done anything.
What?
I haven't done anything with them.
How'd you do that?
Just by posting like every single video that we've been doing for 5 years.
That's amazing. That is so cool, dude. Congrats.
So,
Can
all
you give
you
them to me? I'll take your followers.
all you tell a friend. Let's get it to 2,000. How's that? Let's impress Geoff this year and get it 2,000. All right.
God, you're making me lose it.
Here, let's end this show. Hang on, Geoff.
45.
Looks like Tom Duncan.
Sounds like. Must be a duck.
Jersey girls are the best.
Yeah.
What?
The bunny ears are back.